Welcome to episode 9. In this episode, we will be discussing death, dying, and grieving. This particular episode holds a personal significance for me as I recently experienced a loss of my last living grandparent, my grandfather, on Father's Day, a week ago today. Death can be a sensitive topic for many individuals, but for me, discussing and comprehending it helps me cope. So, death is the end of life, the irreversible cessation of biological functions that sustain a living organism. A little bit about me. I worked for hospice for a little over a year, and that was a eye-opening experience because I was afraid of dying before I worked for hospice. Hospice is not like, oh, we only got 6 months to live. It's about, yes, you have a terminal illness. However, it's about the quality of life, the life you have left. So, with that being said, each person's journey to death is unique. Some have a very gradual decline, but others happen very rapidly. Some of the most common signs are changes in breathing, not being able to eat or drink, the skin changes color, people sleep a lot, they're restless. I'm going to discuss a little bit about the timeline of an individual passing away. Months before their death, during a 1 to 3 month period before death, your loved one is likely to sleep or doze more, eat or drink less. They're likely to withdraw with people. They don't want to see a lot of people. They talk less, and if they're a child, they actually talk more. Weeks before their death, usually 1 to 2 weeks before they're dying, 1 to 2 weeks before death, the person may feel tired and drained all the time. So much that they don't even leave their bed. They're just like, nope, they don't even have enough energy to try to get up. So they can have a lot of different sleep and wake patterns. Little appetite, little thirst, fewer and smaller bowel movements, more pain, changes in their blood pressure, breathing, heart rate, body temperatures go up and down. They may leave their skin cool, warm, moist, pale. And this one is interesting. It's their breath may take on an odor similar to that smells like nail polish remover, and that's due to a result of a metabolic change. I have never experienced that, but it happens. Congested breathing from buildup in the back of their throat. This is, I think it described to me as a death rattle. There's a hospice nurse called Nurse Julie, I believe it is. Hospice Nurse Julie on TikTok. She has lots of videos. I will post them on here on YouTube so you can understand it a little bit better. She's amazing. I learned a lot from her too. There's a lot of confusion, or seem to be in like a daze. Breathing trouble can be distressing for family members, but often it isn't painful and can be managed. Pain can be treated too, but your loved one may have a hard time taking the medicine by itself. I've experienced this with my father passing away, and I'll explain that later. So it can be traumatizing to think that your family loved one is having trouble breathing, but they're not really having trouble breathing. If that makes sense. So the next one is hallucinations, and this one's pretty important. Your loved one may have hallucinations and visions, especially long gone loved ones. But this can be comforting for them. If seeing and talking to someone who isn't there makes the person who is dying happier, you don't need to try to convince them that they're not there. You don't need to argue with them that they're not there. Um, it'll upset them and make them argue and fight with you. So please just let them do what they need to do. They're generally, in my opinion, seeing what they're seeing. So, and again, hospice nurse Julie has a video on TikTok, and I will post this on my YouTube. Um, Example of a death stare. I've actually heard stories of this, and so with my aunt passed away in 2006. She was in hospice. Her husband one night was with her in hospice, and he was sleeping in the chair in the corner of the room. She woke up, she turned in her bed, woke up, and he came to the side of her bed and was saying, "Ruth, are you okay? Are you okay? What's wrong?" She turned around to him and said, "Step out of the way. You're standing on Terry and Kellyanne, and you're standing on them. Get out of the way." And Terry and Kellyanne have died years before. It was my uncle that passed away years before my aunt did, and then Kellyanne was my cousin, her daughter, that died in an accident years before that. So she was generally seeing those loved ones that have hurt that were hers that have passed away before. So that was kind of interesting to see that. And here recently, I heard a story that my grandfather was seeing my deceased grandmother uh, before he had passed away, and was seeing my um, lovely aunt that passed away unexpectedly 10 years ago. Or not, she passed away 10 years ago. He both has seen her, my grandmother, and my aunt before he passed away a week ago today. So I do believe people see loved ones. I think they come. There's so many people out there that have seen loved ones come, I guess, and get them and reassure them. So that's interesting. So I do think that people come and get you or visions. So don't ever say that they're not there to someone, because let them do that. Let them be peaceful. Let them be happy, and don't argue with them. Um, Another interesting one, and it can be shocking at first, and it can give the living a little ray of hope that they're not really dying, is your loved one might become a little bit more clear-headed at the end. Um, in their final days, hours, or even minutes, they may seem they may have a urge, like an urge of energy, like, "Ooh, I'm up and I'm alive," or alert, not alive, alert and have energy. It's this term is called terminal lucidity, and doctors aren't sure why it happens, and it varies from person to person. So, for example, my uncle Terry, before he died, the night before he died, he was up making chili for everybody. Everybody's laughing, making chili, and then the next night he passed away. So, it gives the living hope, but unfortunately he passed away the next night. So that was a little heartbreaking for me. Um, Now, the 24 hours before death, um, they will not want to eat or drink. They'll stop peeing. The bowel movements will cease. There's a grimace or a groan, scowl from a grimace or a groan. Um, you might see them go or like that. Just make sure they have their pain medication. They can't swallow usually, so usually they'll have an IV or some sorts. It just depends on the person. You may notice their eyes tear or glaze over. Their pulse and heartbeat are really hard to feel. Um, a drop in their body temperature. The skin on their knees, feet, hands will turn like a gray, bluish purple color. Their breathing is interrupted by gasping and slows until it stops entirely. Um, if they're not already unconscious, your loved one may drift in and out, but they probably can still hear and feel. So what I've heard from Google and other sources and the hospice people that I work for is one of the last senses to go is hearing. So they still hear everything that's in the room. So if you're arguing or if you're saying your goodbyes, they hear that. They hear everything. They hear that. That's the last one to go. So just know that. Um, Signs of death within hours. Shortly before death, your loved one will look very pale. They'll keep their eyes closed most of the time. They'll switch off between loud and quiet breathing. They'll relax their muscles in their face, so the jaw will drop open. So the reason they are like this most of the time is because it takes a lot of energy to close your mouth. So a lot of times when a person is dying, they will, because it takes energy to close their mouth. So that's why they don't have energy to close their mouth. Um, a long time will go between breaths and then they'll stop breathing. When the person is at the end of their life, within hours of dying, you really want to make the room quiet and peaceful. You want to turn off the television and you just want to constantly assure them that they are there. I know with my father, I had everything turned off. I held his hand, it's quiet, whatever. It was nice. Um, so that's some of those signs. So that's some of the signs of when a person's dying. It's not an exact science. Everybody's different. Um, that's just some of the stuff that I seen personally and that I've seen it while I was working for hospice. A lot of the questions I get, does a person know when they are dying? So I had a strange experience. It's strange but beautiful experience when my father died. So on July 1st, backstory, I'll tell you the story how it happened. So my dad, I went to an appointment with my dad on July 1st, and he was with his caregiver because I was working, and I went with him to his doctor's appointment, and he was like, he's, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. Are you taking care of him? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Why? And my boyfriend at the time, he was like, is so and so taking care of you? I'm like, yeah, he's good. Why? I just want to make sure you're taking care of him. Okay, it's weird. It wasn't like him to keep asking me that. So I asked his caregiver, I said, what's going on with him? And his caregiver's like, well, all morning he's been asking if he wants to make sure you're being taken care of. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, yeah, I'm good. you know? So I was like, that was weird. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I'm like, oh, it's just him being him. And then I went to the appointment. Last thing I told him was I loved him. And then I went my way. They went their way. Apparently, something happened. He had to go to the emergency room. And then that was it. His COPD, he had a diabetic something or another. I thought he was going to come out like normal. He was in and out before that. And that time he didn't come out. He was intubated, came back out. And now that I think about it, I'm like, well, maybe he knew he was going south and didn't know about it. And maybe that's why he was asking if I was going to be okay. So I was like, maybe, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It just made me wonder. I'm like, because he never asked me. He never was persistent on making sure I was okay like that. Never. So I thought that was kind of a telltale sign. And then another sign from my grandfather that I heard was that he was saying that he was on the top of the ladder. He knew his time was coming. So I was like, that's interesting. And then when you see your loved ones, usually they're trying to comfort you at you're at the end. So that was interesting. But it's just interesting thing to do. Let's see. Many people are aware that they're in the process of dying. They may talk about it, getting ready to take the trip. They may look forward to seeing friends and family members who have died, or seeing God or other figures that were important to them. So, whatever your religion is, whatever your background is, however you want to do it, is how they do it. I personally, I'm not afraid to die. I've said this many a time, especially after seeing my father die and a few close ones that I love dearly pass away. I'm not afraid one bit at all. Um, so, and with that being said, what happens when you die? I think we keep going. I personally think our body here is just a vessel, and we keep continuing to go. Our body is just energy. So, whatever you believe is what you believe, no judgments. But for me personally, I think we're just energy and we keep going. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. You can email me, whatever you want to do. Just let me know. But I think we're energy and we keep going. So, hard part here. So, we talked about death. We talked about dying. Hard part is grieving. So, according to the dictionary, grief is a response to the loss of something deemed important, particularly the loss of someone or something living that has died, in which a bond was to which a bond or affection was formed. There's 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I mean, with any type of grief, you can go through all 5, couple of them, one of them, none of them. I know with my father, it it was hard to talk about it for like the first 2 years, even first 3 years, whatever. And then now I talk about with nothing, like whatever. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Life happens. Move on. But I still, it's still, you grieve. You lost your father, whatever. I don't say whatever. That's just how I grieve. Other people grieve differently. I'm not grieving the way someone else should grieve. And I don't, whatever. I just, grieving is your own journey. And nobody should tell you how to grieve or tell you how you should grieve or you should not grieve. So I've had all 5 stages of grieving. So those are the 5 stages. Um, have I ever experienced anyone pass away? Yeah. My father passed away 10 years ago. I was with him when he took his last breath. That was pretty a traumatic experience at the time. He'll be gone 10 years, July 12th. And it was an interesting experience. He, I had to make that choice. I wouldn't wish that choice on anyone, to be a power of attorney, to make that choice to take him off the ventilator, take him off the. But I didn't want him to live with all that tubing, and he didn't have any other way to survive it. So he died of COPD, and how he passed away was, excuse me, he died of COPD. So I held his hand. He had an IV in his neck because I couldn't get any other IVs in him. So he took his last breath, and then the IV like this, and then stopped. And then I swear to you, I'm sitting on his left side, and I swear to you, I literally felt like a cold breeze, like a real cold breeze right through me. It was the most scary but beautiful experience I've ever felt in my entire life, and it was wild. my mother, his ex-wife, my mother was there. Well, shortly, she was there with me up, she came right afterwards, and thank God for her. She is an angel, and she was there. My ex best friend Kim was there, and then my ex's dog, Billy was there to comfort me. But my mom, gosh, she's an angel. But my mom was there. It was an interesting experience. I thought life was over after that, but now it's easier to talk about it, and it was an interesting experience. I was devastated for a while, but I mean, it's still hard. Anytime you lose somebody, it's hard. Yeah, it's really hard. So, um, what surprised me the most about grief is the pain, losing someone. And, anyway, um, a few questions. So, my co host Raji couldn't be here um, with me, but she had a couple questions. She uh, wanted to do. Well, we'll do that in a little bit. So, give me 1 second here. What was the most meaningful thing done to you during your grieving? So people being there for me and just letting me grieve, that was a nice thing because I like to grieve by myself. Weird. I don't like a lot of people. Oh, I don't like that. But other people are different. I'm different. You're different. Just let me be. You know what I mean? Um, I just like to listen ear sometimes. But mainly I like to be by myself. Um, what encouragement would you give to another person who is grieving? Well, I would tell them I'm thinking of them, send a card of flowers, maybe deliver a meal, make a regular date to listen to them and support them, just so they can have someone to talk to, uh, just an ear basically, because it is hard. Sometimes, even though I like to be alone, I still like to have someone just listen to me without, instead of like, oh, I've done that or this. It's just nice to have someone just sit there, even if they don't say anything, and I talk to them just to listen. That is nice. Now, what not to say when someone's grieving? I would never say in a million years, I know how you feel. I've been there. I know. No, you don't. You don't know how I feel. You may have had something similar, but you do not know how I feel. That bothers me to a T. That bothers me. Where everything happens for a reason. You need to move on. No, the fuck I don't. You move the fuck on. Everybody grieves differently. You know what I mean? Or oh, oh yeah, I did the same thing. Oh, I just blah, blah. It's always about the other person. It's like, no, man. That's why I said in the beginning of the podcast, you grieve how you grieve. I grieve how I grieve. I don't need to move on. I move on when I want to move on. You move on how you want to move on. Period. I'm not going to grieve how you want me to grieve, and I'm not going to grieve how so and so wants me to grieve. I'm going to grieve how Candy wants me to grieve, and that is it. No ifs, ands, or buts. So that bothers me when people, oh, I know how you feel. Meaning, anyway, you get the point. So, yeah. Anyhow, so my co-host Raji um, couldn't be on the podcast today, so you got me, yours truly. But she did send in a couple of questions that she wanted me to talk about, and I'll try my best to answer them. But here they go. So, how does the concept of death influence the way we live in our lives? I think a lot of people are scared of the word death. They think, oh my God, I'm scared to die. I don't want to die. And I get it. I get it that a lot of people are afraid, but they shouldn't be afraid. I mean, in my opinion, you shouldn't be afraid. I think it'll be, it, we're just a vessel. We're just here. I just, people are so afraid to die that they're so afraid of dying that they don't live. They need to just live like they're dying. You know what I mean? They need to live to the fullest and not worry about it. And if you know, I don't know. It's hard for me to explain that one, but I just think you just live like you're dying, like the Tim McGraw song. Literally, you just live your life to the fullest. Um, are there any personal experiences with death that have shaped your perspective? Yeah, plenty of them. My uncle Terry, my grandma Dee, my dad, my aunt Diane, and now my grandfather. Yeah, they've all shaped the way I think about death. I don't want to experience uh how do I word this? They've gone through their lives, they're pain free and they experience I death is a part of life. You're born, you live, you die. You keep going on. Like I said before, your energy, I'm gonna keep going on. I'm not afraid. And they shape those deaths. I know I'm gonna see them again in some shape, some way, shape, or form. I'm gonna see them again. And I'm looking forward to it. Do I want to meet them tomorrow? Of course not. But hey, you live your life to the fullest. I know that's something that's gonna happen. We're all gonna die at some point. It's just a fact. It's a straight fact. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that shaped the way I am. At first, I was afraid, I was petrified, but now I'm not. So yeah, um, is what it is. I don't have any fear. She asked me, "How do you cope with the fear of, or anxiety of death?" I don't have any fear or anxiety of death. I just don't. Um, I don't know how I would explain this to other people. Not to just I I don't honestly know how to answer that. I just live my best life every day. Be a kind person, a good person, and I wouldn't know how to answer that. How do I cope with the fear of or anxiety of death? I just know when it happens, I turn into energy. I keep going. I'm not afraid. Period. Um, how can conversations about death and dying bring us closer to understanding the value of life? I think if everybody were open and honest and educated about hospice, death, and dying, I think everybody would have more of an understanding of what's going on and what's going to happen to a certain extent. You know, a lot of people, I'm not trying to, I have to be careful how I say this. You just got to be more educated, read more about the process, death and dying. A lot of people get death and hospice. Oh, they get freaked out. Oh my God. They just read more and educate themselves more. I think they'd have a more open mindedness about death and dying and grieving. I think they would understand it a little bit better. Um, Again, I'm here. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have had loved ones pass away, and I'm sure that they've been through um, death and dying before. But if they would just be a little bit more open minded and read about it, whether it be Google or hospice, go to their local hospice center or hospice office or whatever. Just ask them about that. They'll be open to talk to you about it. They're very nice and understanding people for at hospice. So I just feel like open conversations would be the best about hospice. Um, how can society better support individuals who are terminally ill? So this one is a big thing of mine. And I came across this thing. So, how can society better support individuals who are terminally ill? I think by allowing people the right to access medical aid in dying. So, a trusted, time and tested medical practice that allows terminally ill, mentally capable adults with prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request their Sorry, I'm reading from this because I don't want to get this wrong. So, it's medical aid in dying. So, it's a trusted and time-tested medical practice that allows a terminally ill, mentally capable adult with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request from their doctor a prescription for medication that can decide to self-ingest to die peacefully in their sleep. Medical aid in dying is sometimes incorrectly referred to as physician aid in dying, death with dignity, and euthanasia. Medical aid in dying is not assisted unaliving, or euthanasia. These terms are misleading and factually incorrect. There is a wonderful, wonderful documentary on Amazon Prime called Take Me Out Feet First. Again, it's called Take Me Out Feet First on Amazon Prime. That explains this whole medical aid in dying. There are 10 states that have legalized this in the United States: California, Colorado, Hawaii, Maine, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, Montana, and the District of Columbia. I can't tell you how important this is. If I were to be terminally ill and there was no other choice, and it was free will, I would want to go on my own terms. I would highly consider doing this. Highly consider doing this. This is what Dr. Kevorkian was doing. And he went to jail, I believe, for it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But now it's legal in 10 states and one territory, District of Columbia. Please watch that. Take Me Out Feet First on Amazon Prime. Lovely documentary. Oh my God. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Society, we got to do better with this. We got to help these people who are terminally ill to go out on their own terms. We do it for dogs. You put your dogs down, your loved ones, your pets that you don't want them to suffer. So why are you wanting the humans to suffer? Same thing. You know what I mean? Why are you letting humans want to suffer? Do the same thing. Anyway, that's just my thought. Lovely documentary. I support this full-heartedly. Wonderful. So, what are some ways to honor the memory of loved ones who have passed away? So, you could think about them. You could hang up pictures. You can talk about them, the good memories. You can visit their graves, which, those of you that know me I like to visit graves and cemeteries, stuff like that. You I would, they're always going to be in your heart. You always want to remember their good times, remember what they did, who they were. Try to just do good. Remember the good times, basically. That's pretty much it. And last but not least, what lessons can we learn from death that can enhance our appreciation from life? So, like I said earlier, we want to live our best life. We want to be kind. We want to do our best. Practice makes better. Doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better. Thanks, Mom, for that. Great. I love it. Practice makes better, not perfect. Just live your best life. Do good. Be kind to people. We're all going to die eventually. We're all going to, death is a part of everything. Everything happens. Death happens. Everything. We just need to live our best lives. And that is what is important. And we need to talk about death. We need to talk about dying. We need to grieve in our own way. We need to just let people grieve how they want to grieve. We shouldn't tell people how to grieve. We shouldn't tell people you can't grieve this way, you can't grieve that. Just let people be. Let people be who they want to be. Just let people grieve the way they want to grieve. Whether it takes years, months, days, 1 day, 2 days, 50 years, infinity, just let them be. Let them grieve how they want to grieve. And again, death is going to happen, but life happens too. So live your best life and enjoy it to the best of your ability. And always be kind. Love you. And don't forget to stay half haunted. And I'm going to do more of these videos here. This is my very first video podcast. So I'm sorry if I'm a little shaky or a little all over the place because this is my first video one. So I really appreciate everybody that's listened on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, my YouTube website, my regular website, my Facebook, all my friends and family. Thank you for being a part of my crazy journey. Especially my co-host Raj. Love you, girl. Appreciate you. 100% lovely background I got. Couldn't figure out the green screen, but whatever. I'm gonna try to do more of these backgrounds and videos, but I really appreciate it. I love doing this. I love just talking about different things. My next episode, I think, is going to be about Dr. Harry Hyatt, and he was a local folklorist here in Quincy, Illinois, and that's going to be interesting. So stay tuned for that. And then I got a couple other things coming up. The Mason House Inn, and oh my god, the Mason House Inn in Iowa. I'll be doing that in the next month, so that'll come out in August. And I have some other exciting stuff coming too. So I really appreciate this. And if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that, you know where to find me always. I really appreciate everything. You can find me. I'll give you the gist here because it's my first time on video. My Facebook group is Half Haunted, Half Haunted. My Instagram is Half Haunted 13. My YouTube is Half Haunted Podcasts. My website is www.halfhaunted.com. I do have a email, so if you want me to read any ghost stories or do anything, or you want to be a part of this lovely podcast, half haunted podcast at gmail.com. Feel free to email me, or if you want to be a part of this podcast here, I'm on Riverside, so you can actually watch it live stream or whatever. I'm still learning. I'm not a pro at this by any means, so anyway, please make sure you subscribe and follow on YouTube here. Tell all your friends. I love to have a lot of people become ghostly friends, paranormal friends. Anyway, I'm done rambling, but thank you for taking the time to listen to Death, Dying, and Grieving, a special episode. This is a near and dear to my heart, as I just lost somebody close to me. So anyway, thank you. I love you all. Until then, stay half haunted. Toodles.